That's probably what it is. Yeah, that's what you were saying. Where do you get that? Because when I used to cook, we used to have mats that we stood on.
We have
It makes
those in our
sense, you know?
kitchen. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I finally got one for me when I went out performing, and that makes a huge difference.
Does it?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I've been taking a chair with me.
Yeah. I have to, when I can sit down and play it, but I find that sometimes that
Yeah,
if I'm
don't look
sitting,
as
the
good.
energy is
Drops.
different. It just
I just
drops.
want to be able to sit down if I need to.
Yeah.
Just for a second.
Yeah.
Tune up and then
Yeah.
get back up on camera.
Well, and if nobody's paying attention to me the first set, I'm like,
If it's featuring someone else or something too,
yeah.
like the drummer or the singer or whatever, I can sit over that line.
Yeah, exactly.
One time we played this party, and it was 4 hours straight, and I didn't realize it. I had not taken a break. I was standing like this all night. By the time I started playing, it was like, oh man.
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
My hand was swollen up, like all swollen in my hand, playing so much.
It's amazing how much physical effort goes into it.
People don't realize that.
Yeah. I didn't realize it until I started playing as much as I did down there.
I had a blood pressure issue, so I checked it a lot. I checked it before I played the guitar, then I played the heck out of the guitar for about 5 minutes. I checked it good. It was like, wow, that's one drain. I feel like I ran around a block or something.
Yeah, exactly.
It's got to be good exercise because it's not stressful, right? Hopefully.
No, I think it's just, the type of music you play races your heart,
The audience might cause that too.
There are some moments where that happens, yeah.
I'm trying to focus.
Good morning, and welcome to Unity Church of Clearwater. My name is Phyllis DeBella. I'm an assistant minister, a licensed Unity teacher, a volunteer, and a very happy member of this Unity family, and we welcome you this morning. Prayer is the heart of our Unity ministry. Prayer request forms are found in the lobby and in the prayer room down the central hallway. They may be replaced in the prayer request box that you see here on the platform or in the prayer room. These requests are kept in confidence and lifted up in spiritual consciousness for at least 30 days by our prayer ministry team. Now let us affirm divine guidance, healing, prosperity, freedom, and peace for each and every name that has been shared as we begin our worship with the reading of today's daily word. At this time, please silence your cell phones and take a deep breath as we become centered. Many find God in the silence. Let us be still now for a time and help them in their quest. The affirmation for Sunday, August 30th, I openly give and receive the gift of love. Can we say that together? I openly give and receive the gift of love. According to the Apostle Paul, the greatest gift of spirit is love. Spiritual love is deeper than romantic love and stronger than familial love. It is an unconditional love and acceptance for all life. As a divine being, I am always in the flow of love. I see it in the sun that shines on my face every morning. I receive it in a delicious breakfast and from my dog or cat showing affection. I am embraced in warmth, acceptance, and bliss. There is nothing I must do to be to receive love. I open my heart and I say, thank you. As I receive, I also give. I see God in others and show them love. I accept and love them deeply without conditions. I openly give and receive the gift of love. And from 1 Corinthians, and now faith, hope, and love abide, these three, and the greatest of these is love. And so it is. Amen.
Make me some room close by your side, 'cause love is drawn to love. Here in this place, hearts open wide, oh, love is drawn to love. We'll find our song, sing it together, love is drawn to love. With harmony, oh, everything's better, love is drawn to love. Love is drawn to love. Love is drawn to love. Love, love, oh, love is drawn to love. Love is drawn to love. Love is drawn to love. Love, love, oh, love is drawn to love. Stand up for truth, lift up your voices, love is drawn to love. Follow your heart, you'll see the choices, love is drawn to love. Love is drawn to love. Love is drawn to love. Love, love, oh, love is drawn to love. Love is drawn to love. Love is drawn to love. Love, love, oh, love is drawn to love. Love, love, oh, love is drawn to love.
Thank you, good morning, and welcome to Unity. Please stand and sing House Built on Love.
This is a place of great power. We are all children of God. We find great strength as a people of prayer. This is a house built on love. This is a place filled with peace. This is a sacred space. We join our quiet voice of spirit, feel the steady strength of friends, feeling as you're on a journey and at long last you are home, where your memories surround you and you'll never be alone. This is a place of great power. We are all children of God. We find great strength as a people of prayer. This is a house built on love. This is a place filled with peace. This is a sacred space. We join our voices in glorious harmony. This is a house built on love.
Let's take this opportunity and turn to someone standing next to you and say good morning.
So open up your heart to spirit, let your miracles occur. Never underestimate the power of the spoken word. Just conceive it to receive it. God has promised this to you. There's good that's waiting for you if you only make the room. This is a place of great power. We are all children of God. We find great strength as a people of prayer. This is a house built on love. This is a place filled with peace. This is a sacred space. We join our voices in glorious harmony. This is a house built on love. We find great strength as a people of prayer. This is a house built on love.
Oh, I'm so glad to see you. What a beautiful day it is. My name is Leddy, like Eddie with an L, and I'm really glad that you're here. Your presence fills this house with joy and light and love. We realize that none of us is here by accident. We are here to experience Spirit together, to receive a blessing that Spirit has created especially for each of us in our own way, and to bless others as only each of us can do. I'm asking our light bringers to come forward and show their smiles to our wonderful congregation this morning. We're also greeting those who are watching online. Welcome, you're here with us in spirit. And I'm asking our welcome team to take a look at the thermostat, although I've been running, and just set it at the perfect temperature, whatever that is. If you are here for the very first time, we welcome you. We've been waiting for you. Will you please give our light bringers a wave so they can find you and bring you your welcome bag? Wonderful. Good, good. Oh, we're so glad you're here. And if you saw our sign, or if someone told you about us, or if you were already a Unity person and you went out looking for a Unity church to experience, I'd like to do a quick survey right now just to find out. How many of you first found this church because of the digital sign? No one. Okay. How many of you had already found Unity in another place? Wow, that's great. How many of you have been here a long time? Absolutely great. And how many of you came for the first time because someone you know invited you? All right, that proves it. That proves it. You are our very best advertisement. And that is absolutely the truth. We're glad that you're here. Thank you for telling others about Unity. And there are some little business cards in the lobby that folks have been telling me that they like to carry a few in their purse or wallet. When they talk to somebody that they just feel like, oh, this person's really going to love our church, they give one of those cards. So they're out there for you to keep with you. If you keep one or two with you, I'm guessing we will be filling this room because of the contacts that you make and the people that are drawn to you. So as we begin this morning, I'm going to ask our amazing co-president of Leadership Development, Youth Ministry Coordinator, Prayer Chaplain, Cynthia Mackey, to join me. Cynthia, oh, this is the greatest. Oh, we are so grateful. I don't have a mic today because I just broke it.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I did. I was trying to push the thing in there and
Okay, then
we'll share.
Okay.
Okay, here you go. Oh, check out our e-newsletters for news about what's going on at the Peace Cottage. Yoga, Tai Chi, 12-step seminars. You're going to love it.
Okay, our Wings group, Women Inspiring New Growth Spiritually, meets in the cafe between about noon and 1 p.m. on Tuesdays. Bring a brown bag lunch. The Reverend Phyllis DeBella is leading an inspiring discussion on Myrtle Fillmore's healing letters, and the Wings always has a great time.
Yes, they really do. I want to let you know a new class that just started up on Tuesday nights. It's called A Life That Works, Part 3, and it's taught by the Reverends Judy Tefelsky and Dieter Randolph, and it is a wonderful class. It's based on our three of our foundational texts, Lessons in Truth, Christian Healing, and Prosperity, and we're working in Bible ideas, so you're going to love it. Even if you haven't been to any of the other classes, you're going to like this one, Tuesday, 7 o'clock.
Okay, this is my thing. Do you know that we have an awesome youth ministry that welcomes children of all ages during our Sunday worship service? We have 2 experienced child care attendants every Sunday in our nursery, and Susie Forevermore, our wonderful artist, who designed the creation murals, is our delightful preschool teacher. School-age children start with a short assembly in the Peace Chapel, and then they go to their classrooms where dedicated teachers lead them through a lesson plan that echoes our adult worship theme. We can always use classroom aides and more teachers. Please see me about that if you're interested. And if you have little ones who aren't ready to try the classroom experience but are too restless really for the sanctuary, we also have a live stream in the Peace Chapel that you can experience a family service there. And this is the most important part. We are having a fun youth ministry training. It's called the Fall Roundup, but we're not going to lasso you. But you can come. You don't have to make a commitment. You can find all about serving in youth ministry, what's involved, what's expected, how easy it is. You'll hear some testimonials of some people who are doing it and loving it. This is going to be on Saturday, September 19th from 9:30 to about 11:45. We will be serving a continental breakfast, and then there will be a presentation starting at 10 by moi. So please mark your calendars, sign up at the info counter. We have some great posters that are advertising it, so be sure to check those out. And I look forward to a room full of excited folks.
Oh, me too. And you probably heard that this last couple of weeks, our former president, Jimmy Carter, has been teaching Sunday school. And I was just talking with Cynthia about that recently. We have the honor of hosting many celebrations of life here in this ministry. And I noticed that no matter what books people have written, or public office they have served, or service of our country, or honors at colleges, if they have taught Sunday school, that is the announcement that the families most want to have made. So while you have a chance, teach Sunday school, right? Ooh, that was odd. Okay. Well, okay.
So we're going to be a lively group, though.
Lively, very lively. But we'll remember if you're there. Okay. On Wednesday evenings, the Reverend Phyllis DeBella leads our beautiful, peaceful meditation time. It's just a half hour in the Peace Chapel, and it really soothes the spirit. And at the same time, our teen night meets in the New World Room from 6 to 7:30, and the kids would love to welcome new friends from 13 through 18. Come on and be part of it.
We are so grateful for all of our wonderful volunteers, the volunteers in youth ministry, in the bookstore, the welcome team, in the cafe, on our clean team ministry, that take care of our housekeeping and maintenance for our whole facility. So special thanks to Robin Hoekstra and Pat Krogan, and helpers for keeping the restrooms sparkling, mopping the floors, and taking out the trash.
Jeannie Tucker.
And Jeannie Tucker, too. Bless you, everybody, and even people whose name I didn't say, please. Join us our next service Saturday, September 12th, 9 a.m. To after lunch, and then watch out for our e-newsletter for the dates of service Saturdays and express Saturdays, which will vary as we get into the holiday season. So keep an eye out for that.
Thank you, Cynthia. Awesome. We want to thank you, and yes, we do love you. We had a great Express Saturday yesterday, just 2 hours. We did some cleaning and sprucing and gardening. How do you like our beautiful new welcome garden here between the cafe doors and the bookstore doors? So great. And we want to thank Mitch Egan, former co-president of our board and leader of Uniteens, because he provided for the painter that has been doing such sprucing up in our youth wing. Go and take a look. It's really beautiful. All right, we're grateful to be together. And now let's speak aloud together our opening statements that are here on the screen. There is only one presence and one power, everywhere and always. God, the good, omnipotent, and God is love. And let's speak this word. In our unity of purpose, we are guided by infinite wisdom, renewed by abundant life, and prospered by divine love. And so it is. And so we let it be. Thank you, God. We hold a loving thought together as a spiritual family. For all the people of the world who've been impacted by storms, both literal and human-made, both visible and invisible. Peace to your spirit, beloved. You are strong. For those who pray for healing, we see you renewed, energized, hopeful, resilient, happy, and free. For those who seek prosperity, you are worthy, beloved. Receive the birthright with your name on it from the beginning of the world. For all who pray for peace, for refugees the world over, for those who seek asylum, for people finding their way, we are with you. We see you free and safe. And so it is. And so we let it be. Amen. Let us speak aloud together in our unity way, our Lord's Prayer together. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we also have forgiven our debtors. And leave us not in temptation, but deliver us from error. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. And now let us sing our way into meditation.
When I pray, I feel my heart
When I pray, I remember who I am. I am God's beloved child. I am not who others have said I am, if it is anything less than my true nature. When I pray, I am reminded that I am heir to the kingdom of all good, that I am worthy to receive, that there is no power in the world that can keep my good from me. I am reminded that I am forgiven for any time I forgot who I am. I turn that light of forgiveness upon all others who, forgetting their true nature, have acted differently than they really are. I see each and every one renewed, reminded. I know who you are, I say to each one. You are God's beloved. Remember. And as we remember together, everything lights up. And when I pray, I am reminded. Thank you, God. Amen. How beautiful. For every lesson, we share a responsive reading. That means that some quotations from the Bible are selected. I get to read those, and after each one, there's an affirmation that we're invited to speak aloud together. The affirmations are often inspired by our special music, our scripture, our Unity teaching. I'll begin. From Exodus. For 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread, and the seventh day shall also be a festival to the Lord. It shall be as a sign on your hand and a reminder on your forehead. Thus the law of the Lord will ever be on your lips, because with a strong hand the Lord brought you out of Egypt. Together, you are rolling out your carpet of forgiveness, and you give me solid ground to find my way. From the book of Numbers. The Lord said to Moses, "Speak to the Israelites and tell them that they and their descendants must put tassels on the corners of their garments, fastening each corner tassel with a violet cord. When you use these tassels, let the sight of them remind you to keep all the commandments of the Lord. Thus you will remember to keep all my commandments and be holy to your God. I, the Lord, am your God, who as God brought you out of Egypt, that I, the Lord, may be your God. Together, you remind me that I'm always forgiven. You remind me that I'm always loved. From the book of John, the words of Jesus. I have told you this while I am with you. The Advocate, the Holy Spirit, that the Father will send in my name, he will teach you everything and remind you of all that I told you. Peace I leave with you. My peace I give to you. Not as the world gives, do I give it to you. Do not let your hearts be troubled or afraid. Together, when I try too hard and feel so empty, you remind me that I'm good enough. And at last, from 2 Peter, therefore I will always remind you of these things, even though you already know them and are established in the truth you have. Together, you remind me that I'm always forgiven. You remind me that I'm always loved. Let's stay in this sacred space to receive the blessing of our special music.
Good morning. Good morning. There we are. You remind me that I'm always forgiven. You remind me that I'm always loved. When I try too hard and feel so empty, you remind me that I'm good enough. When that devil doubt is racing before me, sprinkling eggshells of distrust and disarray, you are rolling out your carpet of forgiveness, and you give me solid ground to find my way. You remind me that I'm always forgiven. You remind me that I'm always loved. When I try too hard and feel so empty, you remind me that I'm good enough. I know that there were times I was distracted. I know that there were things I didn't do. But the universe is perfect, and I know it. And the reason that I'm sure of it is you. Did I forget to leave a flower on your pillow? Did I forget to say how much you mean to me? This is my bouquet of recognition for every gift and grace you helped me be. You remind me that I'm always forgiven. You remind me that I'm always loved.
Dave does so much for us. He has that nickname, Chainsaw Dave, which scares newcomers, I know, but he so patiently trims our grounds and also does that for the Bante at Dhamma Wheel Meditation Society. And also Cindy helps too. Thank you, God. So grateful. You know, when people around us are really living their ideals, it reminds us to be a better person. I know that I'm speaking to many type A individuals because that's often the type of person that wants to identify as being a seeker and a thinker and tries something a little off the beaten path, and that's how we often get to unity. I also know what it is like to be a type A person, you know. Oh, you know me. And I think that type A persons often take any implied criticism very personally. It's kind of a flaw. We want so much to please. We want so much to do well, to be that potential that we're trying to be. And we want to pay attention to what we're doing. This morning I was putting on my microphone, my Madonna microphone, you know. And I just tried to jam the thing in there and it broke it, so now it has to go to the microphone hospital. And the first thing I said to myself was, oh, what an idiot. You know, you want to catch yourself with those things, because I really don't need reminding about that part of my behavior and personality, because I'm a work in process. And I speak to myself and share it with you if you feel connected to this. We don't want to take everything personally, you know. Often in our home, I'm doing something, multitasking, and the television is on, and I'm hearing that. And I heard a reporter say, well, Erica just became so disorganized. And I was really feeling bad for Erica. It's terrible, you know. I went to the TV, how could I not do what Erica has done? Who is Erica? And I realized it's like a tropical storm. Wow. The tropical storm became so disorganized. And it was the way they said it, you know. They meant it. So disorganized. She hit a lot of shear, whatever that is, but I think I've hit a lot of it too, haven't you? And you become disorganized and forget what you're doing. Ever walk into a room and you're so full of purpose when you walk into the room? Okay, what? And you turn around and think, if I go out again and come in, maybe I'll remember. And then I've tried lots of little things around the house to make myself remember, because I've got a lot going on, you know. There's like a whole mall full of ideas up here going on. And sometimes it'll be like, oh, I have to go run and do this other thing, but how am I going to remember to do that? Well, here's a magazine on the counter. I'll turn it sideways so it's half hanging off, and then I'll remember this other thing. Ever do that, something like that? Then I come back in, what's that magazine doing like that? And straighten it out. Turn that magazine sideways, and you'll remember to go to the car and get that book before you leave tomorrow. So I think the best remedy is to go out and get the book and put it on the counter so that you don't forget it. Put your shoe on it or something, so you have to look right at it. And sometimes none of those things help. I have a string tied around my finger this morning, and I forget why exactly. Ever do that? It was something I was going to remember. I have actually read that the technique of tying a string around your finger is a very ancient sort of thing. People have sometimes put a pebble in their shoe to remember, which is really an obnoxious way to make yourself remember something. Whatever it is, you don't want to do that again. But they used to tie a piece of cloth around something that maybe there was a wound or something on the legs, they tie cloth around it to remind themselves the spirit of life is there, and sort of as a little ritual to do that. So the idea of the string around the finger is a reminder of some potential, some action that you're going to take. And I also read that actually the index finger is often chosen for that because there is biologically a direct line from the index finger to the heart or the brain, I forget which, but the idea it's to remind you of something that you want to do. Now the trick of it is to tie the string at the moment when you're strongly thinking about whatever it was that you wanted to remember. It's a kind of anchor, you know. This is such a silly thing, but when NLP was first getting popularity, neuro-linguistic programming, right? I remember that I was talking with someone that was very skilled at that, and she wanted so much to bring me into this idea. She was excited about it. And she said, well, just think of something that you really, really know how to do. And I couldn't think of anything. That's sad, isn't it? And she said, really try. And so I thought, well, I know how to open a can of cat food. How pathetic is that? It's all I could think of that I felt that confident about. I know. NLP was just a start. I really needed much more than that. But I was thinking about that. And she said, okay, when you're thinking about opening that can of cat food that you could do with your eyes shut, that you know how to do that, what you want to do is then touch your other wrist and sort of give yourself a little squeeze on the wrist to anchor the thought that you are confident. And then when you're in a situation when you feel scared, unconfident, unable, weak, do that, and it'll bring back the feeling of confidence. So I was trying to do that, but I kept forgetting to do it. So I think really the only sure thing, use whatever technique works for you, certainly. The only sure thing is to remind yourself of the truth of being, and everything else will come as it's supposed to. For instance, many people get very concerned about memory loss, and it's an alarming possibility. I almost wonder if our focus on that fear of maybe getting to the place where we cannot remember brings about the very thing that we've been afraid of. So if that thought comes to your mind, oh, I'm afraid I'll get this condition, with old-timers disease, whatever they call it, that instead say, but I know that there is a mind in me that remembers everything important. Any of us might be in a situation where we somehow can't recall our home phone number. You don't call it much, you just press a button and start questioning, oh my goodness, am I losing my memory? Am I just losing it? And then think of it this way, if you were in a situation in a new life, in a new experience, I don't know, and you didn't remember all these things you'd learned, just couldn't call them to memory, you will still be you. And you will remember to be kind, to be loving, to be patient, and maybe all the other little details aren't so much, you know. I saw a movie about a man who had a short-term memory condition. And so he tattooed on his body everything he wanted to remember, but backwards, so when he looked in the mirror, he could read it. But I was concerned even watching the movie that if that were me, I'd be saying, I wonder who put that there. And then what? You know, I don't know. I probably told you this before about Harvey and Earl were really good friends, and Harvey was concerned that Earl was slipping in his ability to remember, and he'd had a few scary incidents. So he and his wife would go over and play cards with Earl and his wife every Tuesday night. And until they found out we had a class that night, so then they moved it to Thursday. But anyway, that was a mnemonic device. By the way, I'm very big on mnemonic devices. And, make up words that the first letter stands for something else. And when I was first trying to teach my 14-year-old youngest, here's how you clean a bathroom, because it's an important skill, I made up this whole long word. And he said, Mom, it's easier for me to remember how to clean the bathroom than to remember your mnemonic device. So that was really true. So Harvey went over to Earl's house with their wives together, and they were playing cards. And Harvey noticed Earl was doing pretty well. He really seemed to be pretty sharp. So when the ladies were in the kitchen fixing some coffee, he said to Earl, I think you're just doing great. You're just played cards really great tonight. I was really proud of you. And I wonder how your week has gone. And Earl said, well, we had a pretty good week. We had a good talk. The wife and I went over to a new restaurant. Oh, what was the name of that? Let's see. A flower. It's often red. It has thorns. And Harvey said, a rose? And he said, yeah, Rose. What was that restaurant that we were at the other night? Whatever works. I know. I love that story too. Actually, I think comedians help us. They make us laugh at ourselves and remember the truth of our being a little better. I am a great fan of Mitch Hedberg, who is a great comedian, passed a number of years ago, I think in 2005. And this is one of my favorites of his. I can't duplicate his timing, but I hope you'll like it. I saw a commercial on late night TV. It said, forget everything you know about slipcovers. So I did, and it was a load off my mind. Then the commercial tried to sell me slipcovers, and I didn't know what the hell they were. I love that. Wow. Wow. It's sort of good to have an affirmation that you're going to remember whatever's really important. Whatever's really important, you're going to remember. And I have actually used this by now. I know our opening statement. I don't always remember it when I'm supposed to, but I do know it. There is only one presence and one power everywhere and always. God, the good omnipotent, and God is love. And if I'm trying fiercely to remember something, I go back and say that statement, I get centered, and the information that I wished to recall comes back to me. So that made me think that this whole ancient, beautiful idea of the mezuzah and the phylacteries in the religion of Judaism are quite profound. Let me tell you a little bit about that because I wrote it down so I could remember it. Here it is. The mezuzah is a small, often silver or decorative container, and it holds a scroll. It is usually about 4 inches long, maybe half an inch square. It has the Hebrew letter Shin and quite often the Star of David on the outside, but they vary quite a bit. It's something blessed by the spiritual leader at the spiritual community. After 2,000 or more years of this tradition, there are a lot of rules about hanging the mezuzah. Rabbi Arthur Baseman told me that it's to be hung at about a 30-degree angle. And I said, why? And he said, because people couldn't agree about whether it should be sideways or this way, so they made a compromise. I love that. It reminds me that you could still be a little off, and it's okay. You're on the right path. So it must be made on parchment. It must be kosher. It should be written by a qualified scribe from a kosher bird. I don't know what a kosher bird is. A little yarmulke, maybe? I don't know, really. But it must be a specially cared for bird. And a special vegetable ink, and it must be precisely 713 letters on 22 lines, and no mistakes. If you make a mistake, you have to start over, no whiteout. Then it must be rolled correctly, and it has to be checked at least twice every 7 years, because a damaged text is no longer valid. The words on the scroll are known as the Shema, and this is the central prayer of Judaism. It seems to be really like our opening statement. The words come from Deuteronomy. Hear, O Israel, the Lord thy God, the Lord is one. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your resources. And these things that I command you today shall be upon your heart, and you shall teach them to your children. You shall speak of them when you sit in your house, and when you go on the way, when you lie down, and when you rise up. And you shall bind them as a sign upon your arm, and they shall be an ornament between your eyes, and you shall write them upon the doorposts of your house and on your gates. So if you've ever seen a devout Orthodox Jew with a phylactery, it's a small box, leather straps. It's to be fastened here on the front and carefully brought around the shoulders and around the arm and around the hand. I think we heard a year or so ago that a young man was using phylacteries in prayer on an airplane, and the flight attendants became alarmed that it might be some sort of weapon. That's a strange thing. See, we should learn more about one another so that we are enriched by diversity. And remember that many paths have many ways of remembering their central teachings. For us, it might be a shortcut. You might write a little winged globe somewhere right by your doorpost on a little piece of paper, or carve it with a huge knife. Your neighbors will notice that if you do that. Or you could just write a little number 1. There's only one, not two powers, not two forces in the world, but only one. And so the idea is that each time the devout Jewish person goes in or out of the doorway, you touch the mezuzah. I couldn't find a mezuzah. I still long to have one. One day I will. But I did find a little Greek prayer pressed in metal. I don't know what it says, but it seemed like a good idea. So I put that by my door, and you should see the look that Jehovah's Witnesses give me. So I don't know if they know what that means or not, but I think it's a nice reminder. We're coming into the time of year that I fear most, not only because it's the long slide into the holidays with increasing plans and services, but because it is the football season. I get through the spring all right. It's what I call NAPSCAR. Russ is watching the cars go in the ovals, and I'm taking a nap. But he asked me to try. He said, if you knew the rules of the game, you might be more interested. So I'm not sure why, but he directed me to the Complete Idiot's Guide for Football. I don't know what he meant by that, but I did start reading a little bit in the middle, which probably isn't the best way to study the book, but I thought maybe if it catches my interest, I'll try to do more. I did learn something quite interesting. There's someone called, well, for one thing, I liked the chapter, The Guides Who Control the Chaos. We could use that. Who controls the chaos? Well, there are 7 guys, a referee and umpire, a head linesman, a line judge, back judge, side judge, and field judge. And I think they just need one woman. But anyway, you out, you safe, home run, whatever they say. But I looked up head linesman because to me this seems to be the representative of your consciousness when you are estimating damage done in your psyche, a seeming crisis, a seeming evidence that you want to remember the truth of it and not the error of it. So that's the head linesman. And that to me is your knowledge of the truth. But I don't know if you understand this. Some of you do. Let's just see. The head linesman is responsible for what happens at the LOS. Line of scrimmage, good, all right. Prior to or at the snap. What's that? Something about the ball. Why don't they just say when someone has the ball or something like that? He calls offside and encroachment. It sounds very personal. He straddles the LOS, which sounds dangerous, focuses on the closest back to his side of the field. Does that mean someone isn't facing him at that moment? I don't know. He also makes rulings concerning illegal action by defenders. To prevent receivers from moving downfield, are they sneaking around out there? And he must make rulings concerning the sideline of his field, his side of the field, whether a ball carrier or receiver's out of bounds. Well, I think this is that you have a faculty that looks at the mess you've gotten into, the crisis or the scrimmage, and decides, okay, what's happening here? What is the cause of this? That's what thinking people do. They want to discern what caused this. How am I to get this into integrity? Am I making progress toward my goal or running away from it? He also makes calls regarding the legality of actions of receivers and defenders on this side of the field, including pass interference. I guess you have to have a legal degree before you can even play this game. If things didn't work out, in other words, was the interference in my plan, did it come from within me, my own consciousness? Or was it something else? Why did this happen? Also, along with the referee, the head linesman keeps track of the number of downs. Now, here's the interesting part. The head lineman sometimes wraps a string around his finger to keep track of downs. Oh my goodness, these guys can't count to 4. How do they get that job? I don't know. A string around the index finger means first down. This means second down. I guess you mustn't get a second without a first. Well, and a string around the ring finger means the third down, and the pinky means the fourth. So this is what I got to thinking about. The reason to be reminded about the truth of being in the midst of any scrimmage is, what are the rules of the game? The rules are that God is, and God is truth, changeless, perfect, all love, all good, and God's will for you is good. Second, the mental cause precedes the outer effect. If something happened, there were thoughts there. How do I go to the cause level? What was I thinking? The third point. How could I get into the rules of the game, get into integrity? And the fourth, if I'm keeping track and paying attention, I call my players, my thoughts, to follow the rules. So yes, tie a string around your finger if it helps you do that. It'll help you remember to live up to your potential. I also like Jack Handy, who's a very offbeat comedian. He says, whenever I start thinking that I am not living up to my potential, I remind myself of the old farmer and his fight to the death with the insane pig. It's an exciting story, and it takes my mind off this potential business. You think about it more, it'll get funnier. It is a good idea when you are meeting a crisis, a tropical storm in your life, to consider at the outset, what is this reminding me of? Because I know the truth of being. I am to be reminded of what I already know. In fact, that's all we can expect from any educational process, including the religious worship experience. That we be reminded of who we are. Not that we are sinners. I think we have plenty reminding about that. We want to be reminded of who we really, really are, of what we are really in this life to do. And it's often not about what others should do, how they should be corrected and do things differently, although that's my favorite part. It's always about what I should do, what I should be reminded, what I should remember about. A man came to church and he was so upset. He said to me, I can't believe this would happen here. I brought my hat and I hung it up there in the lobby, and now I can't find it, and I think someone at that church stole my hat. So I want you to give a lesson about the 10 Commandments and teach when they get to commandment number 6, thou shalt not steal. I want you to look meaningfully around the congregation. So I said, all right, okay, I'll do that. Because I'm always so compliant, you know. Shut up there. So anyway, I gave the lesson and I got to the point right before the 6th commandment, and the man jumped up and ran out the door. I thought, where'd he go? This was all for him. And so I asked him later, why did you leave right then? He said, well, when you got to the commandment about thou shalt not commit adultery, I remembered where I left my hat. I know. It's an old one, but a good one. Keep that in your phylactery of life. The important thing that we remember from this entire lesson is that you are God's child. God loves you, and God is. Because you're made in God's image. You image like God images. So what you speak and what you see, what you give your attention to remembering, will become manifest. It cannot help but become manifest, so you keep thinking about it. Not what you don't want, but remind yourself of what you do want. And remember that all things work together for good. And at the times when I may forget, please remind me. We are truly, truly grateful, because that's what this church is meant to do, remind us. This is a universe of mind. All is good when we remember it. Let's take our gifts of love and substance into our hands and bless them. We give in love, and therefore we receive bountifully in countless ways. Let's speak our blessing. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, Father, Mother, God. And let's stay in this high place as we take our opportunity to share and to receive the blessing of this music.
With all I know about the universe, you'd think I'd have it down the way it works. If I'm so richly blessed, how come sometimes I'm such a mess? Guess I forget. So help me remember who I am. Help me to trust in the master plan. When I think that I can, remind me I can. Help me remember who I am. I've read the concepts and complexities of quantum physics and string theories, but it's the simple stuff, like love is all that I'm made of, that trips me up. So help me remember who I am. Help me to Help me to trust in the master plan. When I think that I can, remind me I can. Help me remember who help me remember who I am. Help me to trust in the master plan. When I think that I can, remind me I can. Help me remember who I am. Help me remember who I
Wasn't that wonderful? Thank you, Angie. I feel that our music is our best way to remember why we've come together and the purpose of our lives. We bless this offering of love and substance. We dedicate it and consecrate it to the glory of God, to the good of all humanity, in the name and in the nature of the Christ in all. And so it is. Amen. Don't forget, we have the Wings group on Tuesday. We have a class on Tuesday night. We have a prayer service Wednesday night and another class starting pretty soon that night too. We'll tell you about it soon. Right now, let's give thanks together as we sing in our youth ministry. So great. Wonderful. I just want you to know that our sponsors are checking out the Orlando area for our fall retreat for our Youth of Unity. It's going to happen at the end of October. So these kids are going forward, and other chapters from other churches are going to be joining them. I want to give thanks for Mitch Egan. He never likes us to call attention to him, but he's a guy right there. Give us a wave. Thank you, Mitch. He has lovingly provided for the repainting of so many areas of our youth wing, and we are so, so grateful. Thanks, Mitch, for the way you show your love. All right. And now let's all rise together. And let's extend our hearts and our hands and know that as we speak the word, it is now taking place. For all those with whom we pray, let's remember who we are with our prayer for protection together. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Now let's join hands together and sing "Let There Be Peace on Earth," and let it begin with me. Have an awesome week.
With God as Father, the Lord,
chocolate right?